What is up, my brother? So in this video, I want to read you this post that one of my community members left the other day after visiting his son. And he's college university age, and he was talking about the fear of a Me Too today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this out to you, and then we're going to go through some possible solutions. It's very, very bizarre to have to deal with this today, because when I was a kid at this age, my biggest problem was how to get the girls sort of thing. So let me just read this to you. He goes, so he's making reference to my book, finished it one evening earlier this week. It's damn powerful, so much so that I gave a copy to my son in college yesterday. I'm visiting him for the weekend and told him to close his school books for a day and read it immediately. That led to a longer conversation I had with him and his pals over dinner last night over what college men are facing on campus these days. And man, it was a real eye-opener. Very depressing. These are all good kids, smart, funny, charming, and already with a surprisingly solid understanding of game and the red pill. That's the good news. But what's holding them back with women isn't so much a poor understanding of female nature, but a genuine fear of being Me Too'd and thrown out of school. The environment couldn't be more toxic. They all have friends who have either been threatened with or actually investigated by the school based on the most bizarre charges by some college girl who woke up regretting fooling around the night before. One of his buddies told me he joked about his wife beater. It's funny, sometimes I wear a wife beater to the gym when I work out. His wife beater on Instagram, and it was immediately brigaded. So this is an Instagram post that this kid made while attending school, and it was brigaded by dozens of cackling nut jobs about how he was an incorrigible misogynist, how it was putting them in danger. Put that in quotation marks. How wearing a certain article of clothing puts the opposite sex in danger is beyond me. But anyway, my son told me he had a girl calling and texting him all night on Friday, but he refused to engage because he sensed she was crazy. Dad, you just never know what you're going to get into with these girls, he said. They weaponize social media, and if you happen to hook up or even make out with them at a party and then ghost them and don't pay enough attention afterwards, they won't hesitate to accuse you of being a harasser on Instagram. Wow. I witnessed it myself sitting in a coffee shop on Saturday, eavesdropping on a conversation between two college feminists and their obviously gay friend. After blathering on about misogynists and sexual harassers, it was comically cliche. My kid has several professors who require that the students state their pronouns. Yes, Mr. Cooper, can you please state your pronouns? How about get fucked? Anyway, this is where we're at. Comically cliche pronouns. So this is fairly, and this isn't a fairly conservative state school, mind you. None of his pals buy into this nonsense. That's the other good news, I suppose. They just roll their eyes and have accepted that it's the cost of getting a piece of paper. That piece of paper framed in mahogany on the wall everybody chases. These poor bastards are just college kids entering the dating scene, and yet they already have to have a PhD level game just to get girls or get laid. But to avoid being thrown, not just to get girls, but to avoid being thrown out of school. I suggested they commit the red flags to memory and avoid all of them like the plague. If you guys don't know what he's making reference to, pin below in the top comment. You can opt into my email list and get the chapter on red flags that you want to identify and avoid with women when dating. I would definitely co-sign that. If you're a college, university age kid, stay away from any chick exhibiting red flags, or just get the whole damn book. I mean, it's on Amazon. It's also pinned below. Red flags to memory and avoid them like the plague. But that's about the best advice I could offer. I have to say, I was half tempted last night to buy several cartons of the book and just start handing them out to the dudes on campus. He's making reference to my book, The Unplugged Alpha, on Amazon. The college version of Unplugged Alpha, dealing with the unique pressures these kids face, would be a huge hit and valuable public service. And then we talked about privately putting out a book perhaps later, maybe like an Unplugged Alpha's Guide to College University Years, which may come out in the future. But yeah, that is kind of depressing. So let me offer some advice. The first thing I would say is never let school get in the way of your education. A lot of people put way too much emphasis on getting a piece of paper framed on a wall with mahogany with little letters after your name saying that you're important or special. Look, we live in a world today where you don't need that anymore, or as much. Unless you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, some kind of licensed professional that requires a professional designation. You know, if you so choose that career path, That's the only time you really absolutely need to go to post-secondary education to get that degree. That being said, school is pretty much useless in my opinion after high school. It's not a good use of a man's time. This is what happens. You end up being surrounded by the woke crowd. You can't, I mean, these guys are fearful of talking to girls. They're in their prime years, right? Eddie Murphy made a joke back when he was doing stand-ups. Your 20s are your years to bang, basically, is what he says. I'm watering down the language a little bit, but those of you that have seen it know exactly what I'm talking about. And these poor kids are like afraid to even deal with women. So, look, if you're in the school system, then any pointing and sputtering at you could potentially ruin your ability to get that degree complete. They might throw you out of school, all based on an allegation. They don't even need evidence. They can just purport that you did something, whether you did or you didn't, or if they felt regret the next morning because you did or you didn't, is not of any significance or consequence. It's believe all women. And that's the model that we use today. Men are guilty until proven innocent when it comes to scenarios like this. So if you're in school chasing that degree for that piece of paper, for the professional designation, doctor, lawyer, accountant, so on and so forth, engineer, fine, carry on, be careful. I would definitely encourage you to read my book, The Unplugged Alpha. At the very least, download the free chapter on the 20 red flags, which you can get by opting into my email list. And the other bit of advice, which I think is probably more prudent, is if you're a young man today, I would probably look for ways to avoid going to college, university. They're mostly woke liberal shitholes. Like put your pronouns in your bio, go to this fucking march or wear a pink pussy hat, whatever it is that you have to do today, to placate them, wear a mask, get this, do that, do the other thing, to satisfy the woke crowd. Don't. My advice is don't. The more and more that I spend time thinking about this and dealing with stuff like this, the more and more I'm going to recommend to guys to pursue a path in entrepreneurship and starting up your own business, so you don't have to tolerate any of this nonsense. Because it's not just in school. I mean, if you go to the corporate world and you get into one of these big organizations, they're for the most part like this now. Most of them are woke, inclusive, hiring protocols that are just completely absurd, that aren't even based on merit or skills or qualifications. It's just based on like what you were born with in your pants, or what color your skin is, or what your preferences, bi, straight, whatever the hell the options are today, and what little letters you put after your name that are tied into pronouns or your preferred community. So yeah, for those guys that are concerned about stuff like this, my advice, I hate to say it, but don't bother going to school. It's not worth it anymore. It's not worth the debt that you're going to incur. You're probably not going to learn anything. I know for a fact, back when I went to college, I didn't even finish my degree, actually. I left it within about 6 months of completion to go do a gig with my dad on a sales call down in the US with a company that he was starting up. And I learned more in that 4 days on the road with my old man than I did in a couple years of going to college. Most of the instructors lecturing didn't know shit. They were lecturing on stuff they really had no experience on, and for the most part, I just felt like it was a big waste of time back then even. So it sounds like it's even worse today. I have a course on the entrepreneur's mindset. It's called the School of Entrepreneurship. I opened it for enrollment in April, and it's closed right now. So it's going to reopen again in August. What I would recommend is getting on my list for that. That's also pinned below. The option to opt in is presented when you click it. Just pop in your email list and you'll be notified when the course is open for sale again. The reason why I'm mentioning that is it's a hell of a lot cheaper than going to school, and it has none of the fluff or any of the bullshit. You can literally learn everything that you need to know about starting your own business, what types of businesses to avoid that end up being hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating, and what kind of businesses are generally easy, lucrative, and fun, and highly profitable. So yeah, get on the list for that. That'll open in August. But yeah, that's a rough go. Hey, if you're a dude, then you need to consider these things today. If you're a young man, it's something that you need to consider. If you're a parent and you're watching this and you have a young son that is entering post-secondary education, it's something that you need to consider as well. School is not what it once was, unless, again, STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. You need that degree, you're going to pursue, you like that thing, that's what you want to do, go for it. But woke culture is infiltrating everything, and we're at the point now where the only option to avoid that is really to start and control your own business and write your own paycheck that way. Leave a thumbs up, comment below, pin in the top comment is everything that I mentioned in this video. Have an awesome day. Peace out.